Welcome in, everyone, and thank you for listening to the 221st ever episode of the Missouri Sports Podcast, brought to you by 106 Apparel and recording from the advertising studio in beautiful Springfield, Missouri. I'm one of your hosts, Cameron Albert, alongside my good friend and fellow Mizzou fan, Kyle DeVries.
It's
22nd.
Yeah.
What did I say?
21st.
Did I really?
I think so.
22nd. How are you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing great, Cameron. How are you?
I think
Do you have a good
I wrote down 22nd. Actually, I wrote down 222 first. So maybe I did mess it up. What do you want to say?
Do you have a good Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Leave it at that. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. That's good to hear. So it sounds like there's nothing really more that you want to talk about there or anything. So
No,
what about your producer,
probably
Cameron?
shouldn't.
Yeah, we had some sick family this year, so it was a small group, but that's still pretty relaxing. So,
Are you ill now?
no, I didn't see anyone who was sick.
Oh,
They
okay.
didn't come.
Oh, okay.
Small group.
Small group.
Okay. Well, gotcha.
How about you? Did you enjoy it?
Oh, it was just great. Just fine. Wonderful.
I was traveling back from family's house on Friday. Missed the very beginning of the football game. But it was at a kind of I knew what time the game was, and that's kind of a weird time to be traveling home because we had to leave fairly early to get home in time for the start of the game. We could have watched the game there, but then it would have been
Yeah, you don't do
super
that.
late getting home.
You don't want to watch it with family.
That is also true. A lot has happened since last time we talked.
Yeah.
Mizzou sports-wise.
Yeah.
Beat Arkansas. It's now portal season immediately. We're going bowling. We are undefeated in basketball. Kind of good times right now. A nice week, more or less. Some bad, some good. Mostly good.
Mostly good.
Before we get into the details, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, leave us a review, support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Missouri Sports Pod, and just leave a like on the video if you're watching over on YouTube. We appreciate that. Let's start with basketball and then do football. Does that sound okay?
That sounds just fine.
Basketball, there were two games. Mizzou beat Houston Christian. Did you see in the broadcast they mentioned that the name change from Baptist? Missouri won that one 105-69, just destroyed them.
Yeah.
And then just a couple nights ago beat Wichita State on the road 88-84 in overtime. That final score is kind of what I thought. I kind of thought that might be a Mizzou win in regulation. And it was just kind of a crazy game, up and down. First half, Missouri looked quite good. I thought the first half looked like the same Mizzou team that we've been watching all year blow out bad teams. Just they were challenged a little bit more, so it was a closer game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's something we talked about last week was this is going to be the first game where it's possible Missouri's not able to kind of play the way they want to. And so, I mean, from the get-go, though, they were just like, nope, we're going to keep playing fast. If you guys want to slow it down, that's fine. Do whatever you want. We're going to keep playing aggressive, keep pushing the ball in transition. We're going to be all over you, try to steal the ball from you, all that stuff. And, yeah, in first half, it worked really well. They scored like 43 points in the first half, so that was great to see.
Yeah, might as well mention no Isaiah Mosley in this one. And after the game, Coach Gates mentioned that he's dealing with some personal issues off the court, nothing disciplinary. And so that's all the details that we've been given at this point. So hopefully nothing too bad there, and he can suit back up whenever he's ready.
I'm sure, I'm sure everything's going to be fine. And whatever Isaiah Mosley's dealing with, hopefully, he's going to figure it out. But I gotta, Mizzou fans just kind of have PTSD about this kind of stuff, man. Like, it's the we can't really have nice things whole mindset, because every time it's like, wow, we landed Isaiah Mosley. Like, wow, we got Michael Porter Jr. Like, you kind of start going down that road a little bit. Like, oh, wow, something good and a surprising thing happened, and it is disappointing. And so
We got more of that later in the episode too.
Yeah. So I think I know what you mean by that. But hopefully everything works out with Mosley. I know he missed a game earlier this year too, so it's been a little bit of a bumpy ride so far, but we'll see.
The good news is they didn't need him offensively to win, and for a lot of crunch time, Coach Gates went with 6 guys that he was super confident in down the stretch. So that was interesting to see.
Yeah. Basically, like Demoy Hodge, Noah Carter show, some Sean East at the end, but Kobe Brown was really not terribly involved in this game. So all newcomers that were carrying them in this game.
Yeah, Missouri was up 45-36 right at the beginning of the second half, and then Wichita State went on a 16-0 run, which was
pretty brutal,
kind of devastating, and just given flashbacks to the last few years, and
was almost just enough to put us away, really.
Yeah, it was very close. Then Missouri, we were up before that, so it wasn't like they put it out of reach. Then we scored some baskets, went back and forth a little bit, but then Wichita State went on a 12-1 run, and that ended with them being up 10 points, 66-56, and overall that extended run was 30-11 Wichita State, deep into the second half. But luckily, it was only a 10-point deficit, and Missouri did not slow down pace-wise, tempo-wise. The shooting just completely went ice cold. Missouri couldn't buy a three. Everybody was missing wide open shots.
Basically, everybody outside of Hodge and Carter made a few, but outside of those two guys, it was truly like nobody could make a shot, especially there in the stretch in the second half.
Yeah, Hodge, he's still 4 of 11 from 3, but I think Missouri at one point was 0 for their last 8 3-pointers and like 0 for 11 from the field.
They shoot a lot of threes.
That's true. Missouri on for the game 7 of 33 from 3. That's only 21%, not great. And Wichita State, uncharacteristically, 12 of 29, 41% from 3.
Yeah, at this point, I think it's safe to say that Missouri's perimeter defense is still not where it needs to be. And, because everyone's shooting well against us at this point. Wichita State, terrible three-point shooting team, like you just said. And, yeah, if they're shooting over 40%, they're scoring 80-plus even with overtime. That's pretty uncharacteristic of Wichita State. The defense has got to improve if Missouri is going to be a tournament team, but I have all the faith in the world that they can do that. The offense is great. Even, with a 16-0 stretch, we're still able to score in the upper 80s. So, defense has got to be better.
You mentioned Kobe Brown being on the bench, or we touched on that a little bit, but I thought it was interesting. No Mosley, and the team had gone cold offensively, and they made a concerted effort to actually get Kobe Brown several possessions where he was allowed to just kind of go try to get a basket for himself. And just remembering back off the top of my head, I feel like there was maybe like 3 out of 4 possessions, and maybe a little bit more than that, where they went to Kobe, where he was clearly the scoring threat that they wanted to make something happen here. And he got a couple baskets, but then maybe 3 or 4 possessions just went nowhere. And then that's when Carter came back in the game and Kobe was on the bench, and it pretty much stayed that way last 5 minutes of regulation and all of overtime. Kobe with only 3 fouls, but that's not the end of the world. And by everything that I've seen, Kobe Brown took that very well, as you would expect.
Right.
A mature player who knows we're just trying to win games.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was an interesting dynamic, and seeing Coach Gates go with Honor, East, Hodge, Carter, and Trey Gomillion down the stretch. I like that. There's no guarantee that that's the 5 or 6. He was bringing in Ronnie DeGray for defense only,
Yeah.
subbing with Sean East there just to get some size and rebounding.
Yeah, it was good to see DeGray get in there. I think I was a little curious why he seemed to be like the 12th man, basically, at the beginning of the game, of the season.
Yeah.
Where he was just basically not getting into the game, and if it was like garbage time, even against terrible opponents.
Right.
I was kind of thinking like, man, DeGray is not a world beater, but he's, he can add valuable minutes in different ways, and I kind of feel like they're missing out by not having him play, especially considering some of his strengths are the team's weaknesses, like rebounding and defense down low and stuff. He can do all that.
Yeah.
So I was happy to see them put him in there, and I thought he played really well with the kind of the role that he has. But Kobe Brown and Noah Carter are kind of an interesting duo. Similar position, similar like body, like size, but totally different skill sets. And in this game, it just kind of felt like, well, Kobe was in foul trouble too, but Noah Carter's, I think just like his outside game is a little better than Kobe's, and it just kind of felt like we needed the scoring punch, the shooting, and that probably he's a little bit ahead of Kobe in my mind, at least from like the perimeter. So
he's the more dynamic offensive player. I think. More dynamic scorer.
I probably agree with you, and Kobe probably maybe even has a little bit better ability to drive and get in the lane and make some tough shots. But I agree, Noah Carter is really offensively skilled. Like he's added a lot to the team so far.
Nick Honor with 4 steals. That was huge. Missouri with 16 steals for the game. Wichita State with just 3. Missouri only turned the ball over 8 times.
Yeah.
Wichita State turned the ball over 20 times.
Yeah. I hope that's something that continues. Is the aggressive defensive play, especially kind of like extending out and really making all the passes difficult and stealing a lot of. I mean, they got so many points from just like get a steal, just throw it out, just immediately start running down the court, outlet pass, and open layup. They've scored a ton of points this season from doing that, and I kind of feel like that's one of those things where, eventually in SEC play, maybe when coaches kind of start watching film on us, they're just going to see like this is how Missouri is scoring like 20 to 30 points a game, and the offense could hit a rough spot, I think, if coaches start figuring out, like, we just got to make sure we're not turning it over because they're scoring so many points in transition. Like, the half-court game is not stellar, honestly, in my opinion, from Missouri. So hopefully that is something that doesn't get exploited down the road.
Right. We're making up for missing open threes by getting out in transition and getting easy baskets at the rim. Mm-hmm. And if we're not shooting well from outside and a team is doing really well at limiting transition opportunities, then that's basically what was happening for like the middle section of this Wichita State game.
Right.
And it kind of, the pace slowed down a little bit, and it just felt like Wichita State was now dictating the game to some extent.
Which was why it was so important for Missouri to dictate the pace, because they were able to make Wichita State speed up, feel like they're playing an unnatural style that they don't want to play, and it probably is why they had so many turnovers. So that was really the key to the game, was Missouri being able to say, nope, we're gonna play fast.
It was also really nice when Wichita State decided to just miss a bunch of clutch free throws late in the game, just to let us hang around and then put it away.
I feel like we have been on the other end of so many games like that just in the last few years and stuff. So it was kind of insane to just watch another team like crumble down the stretch. And it's like we never win these games. Like overtime clutch, like we just kind of easily got back in the game, because I do think Missouri is the better team.
Right.
And Missouri, the better teams find ways to get back in games, to close them out, whatever they need to do, even if it's not super pretty. Missouri was exactly that role in this game, and it just seems like we're never that team that does that.
Yeah, and that was so, I mean, for like a season-long perspective, still super early, but what a good thing to see in your first real challenge of a game on the road. The shooting wasn't there like you would expect for a team that's been shooting at home for 8 games in a row, and to see them battle back and still dictate their pace and their style of play through the end of the game. I mean, when we got it to overtime, I honestly felt pretty good about the overtime period. I thought we figured something out there in the last 5 minutes of regulation, got back in this game, could have won it, but That would have been.
What if that Go-Million 3 went in at the buzzer in
man.
regulation? That would have been crazy.
I was kind of like mentally thinking like we could see that type of finish here.
Yeah.
But I was totally okay with just winning by 4 in
Give us
overtime.
5 more minutes. Yeah. Yeah, Wichita State is not probably the program that it used to be maybe 5-10 years ago, but it's still a good program, and it's a tough place to win. It was a packed out arena.
Don't schedule them ever again, please.
Yeah, please don't go on the road to
Jeez.
Wichita State again. Just don't do that. But where was I going with that?
They're not the team they have been.
Yes, I mean, but think about some of the non-conference away games that Missouri's played in the last few years. I mean, again, you could probably write a case study on like the psychological effects of playing on the road. I've never done it at the college level. I don't know what makes it so difficult, but it clearly is a totally different experience to play on the road in someone else's arena when everyone in the arena wants you to lose. And we have watched some terrible games on the road. Like
just last year, getting smoked by Liberty.
I was just about to say,
Yeah.
think of the Liberty game last year. It was absolutely horrible. And I mean, like a Utah game from a few years ago comes to mind. I think that was the 2017 season where we were actually a good team and just got smoked on the road against Utah.
That first challenge can sometimes just knock you down.
You just never know what's going to happen in that first game on the road, and with a new coach, new team. I wouldn't have been super surprised if Missouri just totally folded in this game and didn't come out and play well. So it was good to see the opposite of that.
Before we move on, the last thing I want to focus on, and if you have anything else, go for it. But Sean East basically taking control of the game down the stretch and wanting the ball in his hands, getting to the free throw line, making his free throws, getting some easy baskets late. He was huge. Like he looked totally confident in that position, in that role late in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's a little surprising too. I mean, we know he's talented and is a good scorer, good scoring guard and all that stuff. But I mean, he hasn't been like super impressive so far. Obviously, just getting acclimated to a new team and all of that. But man, it looked like he was like, "This is my team, and we're gonna win,
right?
And I'm gonna do everything I can." So that was really cool.
So Missouri is 8-0 now and 37th in KenPom. That's a really good number for first-year head coach, or first year for Dennis Gates in Columbia. That puts you on a trajectory to be in the NCAA tournament.
Yep, that's where Missouri should be every year.
Offensively 14th now, defensively 92nd in efficiency in all of Division I, and tempo, they are 8th fastest tempo in the country right now.
Which is a little bit crazy because they didn't play super up tempo at Cleveland State,
right?
But now I guess just maybe a little better athletes.
And I don't think there's any guarantee. This is not like the style of play that Gates is all in on for his entire time at Missouri.
Right.
I think this is, I've got the athletes, I've got the depth.
Just maximize the personnel.
They can do this, so let's do it.
Did we talk about this last week? Maybe I don't know. Probably. But for sure, it's cool to see that Gates is saying, "This is my personnel. This is how we're gonna play," and it's working out really well. He's super. Have you watched him much on the sidelines?
Oh yeah,
he seems like super just calm,
like barely says anything. Yeah. I find it very fascinating to watch the coaches on the sideline and see. I would listen to the coach mic'd up over any broadcast you could ever give me. Especially the one we got in this Wichita State game. Holy cow, the broadcast was brutal.
Oh, that was awful.
Like, the commentary was so-so, but then they would just say some really weird stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's clearly a Wichita State broadcast too, but...
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Was that just the American Athletic Conference
it could have
on
been.
ESPN?
It could have been.
Or it almost seemed like it could have been that, or I wouldn't have been surprised if that was the Wichita State, like, home radio broadcast.
It might have been, for all I know. But
and the ESPN Plus feed cutting out
my gosh,
half a dozen times.
Yes, like in pivotal moments too.
Yes, I think like Missouri scored every time it cut out, so that wasn't the worst thing. But
that's true. It's like we'd always come back from the blackout with more points.
Yes.
But yeah, Gates is so calm on the sidelines. Like I've seen a couple of videos of him like walking onto the court before games, like at home, and he gives like just a subtle wave to the student section as he walks in, and just, I don't know, man. He's locked in.
Yeah, so I just find that so fascinating. Something about coaching and like teaching the game of basketball.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so interesting to see how the coaches, the personality that they, interact with their players with and everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. He seems like a very genuine person,
Mm-hmm.
and seems to, well, we didn't talk about Trey Gomillion breaking down in his post-game press conference because of some personal things he's going through. And he specifically mentioned Coach Gates being the guy who's like kind of helping him through this difficult time and times in the past.
Yeah.
And that just wonderful things to hear about your head coach, and them being undefeated and everything. Feeling really good about the basketball team right now.
Yeah. I think there was a Twitter account, Represent Mizzou, I think is his name. He said basically something to the effect of like, oh, so you can be a good guy and have a good basketball team or something like that.
Yep. Although,
best of both worlds.
yeah, we're finally getting it. Maybe we'll see. Long ways to go still. Missouri's next game, unless you have anything else about Wichita State, is against SEMO. SEMO not very good. 278th in KenPom. They're an okay 3-point shooting team, so they could keep themselves in a game against Mizzou by getting hot from three. Two familiar names on the team, two former Vashon players, Philip Russell and Kobe Clark. Kobe Clark actually committed to Georgetown out of high school and was there for 2 seasons but basically never played. Now he's at SEMO, and Philip Russell committed to SEMO out of high school, then decommitted or transferred to St. Louis, and then transferred back to SEMO. So
I watched SEMO play Missouri State last year, and they similar KenPom ranking to what theirs is now, but they just like exploded for like 100 points in that game. So hopefully they don't do that against Mizzou.
Well, like I said, they can shoot the three okay.
Yeah.
But I think we should be able to turn them over, get easy transition baskets. We should be able to score in the paint with Kobe and Carter. I don't think it's going to be a struggle. It shouldn't be anything worrisome there.
Yeah, I just hope they're not overlooking it for what's to come.
Yeah, because right now we have a stretch here, which is 1 game a week, which is kind of nice. Although it's like pros and cons. At the beginning of the season, there's like sometimes there's 3 games
there's
in
3
1 week.
games, but yeah, it's like they're just all horrible teams.
And you just almost like forget that a game is tonight, which is a pleasant surprise for sure. But so yeah, after we should be 9-0. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but we should be 9-0 going out into the home matchup against Kansas. Missouri did get 1 vote in the basketball poll at 24th last week before the Wichita State game. So I don't know when those publish, but it'd be interesting to see.
I think it's usually like Sunday, maybe.
If Missouri's getting more votes. I still think for TV purposes, it makes sense to give us number 25.
Just sneak us in there.
Yeah. But we have time before the Kansas game to really get into it next week. So come back for that. Anything else basketball before we move on to football? Football it is. Last Friday, Arkansas came to town and Missouri won 29-27.
How did you know? How'd you know?
It just felt right.
Who are you?
29-27. It felt right.
You got Nostradamus in here.
Yeah. I didn't even realize it was happening till after the game was over. And I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure I said 29 and 27.
This man predicted the exact score of the Arkansas-Missouri game.
You get lucky sometimes. I don't want to give away my secrets.
You said they were going to score 29 points.
Yeah.
29-27, and they did.
It was a weird little game. Field goals, failed
You
2-point conversion.
Yeah, you knew they were going to
That kind of stuff
17 field goals and miss an extra point, and miss a 2-pointer in the third quarter or something like that.
It happens sometimes.
That's incredible. Great job.
give me your thoughts about this game before we delve into the details. It always feels good to beat Arkansas, the rivalry game. We're bowl eligible, all of that. Is it worth? I don't know. Is there too much negativity to bring out of this game considering how good it all felt in the moment? I feel like sometimes a week later it's easier to go back and pick out the negatives.
Yeah, I mean, a lot's happened since that game, like out off the field, and so obviously I think mentally I already feel like I've moved on from the game, which is kind of sad considering that was like a huge win. And honestly, nothing brings me joy like beating Arkansas in football, especially. So that was, I mean, we're 7-2 against Arkansas in the SEC era, and I know for a 100% fact most Arkansas fans think they are a superior program to Missouri. So it feels good year after year after year after year to see them crying on Twitter and
they were
breaking down.
They were down about the team.
Oh man,
after the
love
game.
It brings me joy.
I saw so many tweets that were unironically saying, "This is not a rivalry; they own us."
Yeah.
And just like coming to terms with it.
I'm not even gonna talk trash to these poor folks. They're going through it. But so that was great. And, I think Arkansas they're just kind of one of those teams where it's like any day they could probably beat us by 3 touchdowns and, but we got the best of them on when it mattered. And they've been super up and down this year. Honestly, maybe this is blasphemous to say, but if we played them at the beginning of the year, I think they probably would have beat us easily.
They had they were 10th. They were ranked 10th in the country at one point, early. They
were playing really, really well. And I think they've had some weird kind of off the field stuff happen, some locker room issues. They had a couple players leave the team before the Missouri game. So I don't really care. I'm happy to beat them however we want to do it here. But I do think they had a little turmoil off the field. And, I think we've talked about just kind of the Arkansas coaching staff, and I think Sam Pittman, I don't know what I think about him as a football coach, to be completely honest, but I think he knocked his offensive and defensive coordinator positions out of the park completely, like Barry Odom and Kendall Briles.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think those guys are just excellent coordinators. So, and honestly, I'm a little bit surprised that both of them have been there for his entire tenure. So I think that gets broken up a little bit after this season. I'm not sure what it'll look like, and I think Pittman will still be there, but I don't know about the other two.
Yeah. I thought that early on in the game, it looked like KJ Jefferson was not going to let Arkansas lose, is kind of the vibe I was getting. And Missouri's defense would put themselves in a really good position, and then he would just kind of, pull a trick out of his hat and make something happen on, 3rd and long, or just like scrambling for a first down. But on the flip side, Brady Cook was doing the exact same thing for Missouri's offense. I feel like maybe this is the 3rd time now we've said this is potentially the best game of Cook's Mizzou career. And I think probably this is it.
Yeah.
Up to this point, it being a win to get bowl eligible against Arkansas. Mm-hmm. And his performance, it doesn't count as an interception. He threw an interception on the 2-point conversion attempt, but 380 total yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. 242 through the air and a touchdown, 138 yards rushing and a touchdown.
Yeah. He's legitimately a really good running quarterback at this point. Like, he has good instincts for that. He knows when to run and when not to run. His pass game is still pretty suspect at times, but at other times it's looked pretty good. He had a huge bomb to Dominic Lovett in this game. But I would say easily his best game he's played this year, and we really needed that. So he's steadily improved throughout the season, man. I think he's made the quarterback situation at Missouri pretty interesting, and I know that we have an entire offseason to chat about what's going to happen there, but I think he's really made, he's made the conversation interesting, and I'm not sure it was like a month ago.
Yeah, and the offense did struggle a bit in the second half, and there was a little bit of the classic taking your foot off the gas pedal from the coaching staff that maybe one day we'll get over. And there were some missed throws from Cook in the second half that would have probably, I mean, even like the huge 4th down conversion to Lovett was a bad pass, and Lovett bailed him out completely by like catching it on his back hip.
Mm-hmm.
And if he puts that out in front of him, that might be a touchdown.
Yeah.
So the second half, Arkansas made adjustments on defense to slow Cook's running down. They put a spy on him, and they definitely made it more difficult. After scoring 2 touchdowns in the first half, they only scored 9 points. They scored 9 points in the third quarter and then nothing in the fourth.
Yeah.
So the offense definitely slowed down in the second half.
Yeah, and again, I mean, we've kind of talked about coaching schematic stuff here a little bit for both sports, but that, again, that's kind of one of those things where I don't think Brady Cook's going to run for 100-plus rushing yards in every game that he plays from here on out, and eventually teams are going to figure that out, force him to throw, which seems like kind of a weakness at this point. Like his rushing game is a strength for him.
Yeah, but make the defense do that. Force the defense to make that adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
Like start out every game that Brady Cook is starting with the game plan of we're going to try to get him 100 yards if it's easy.
Yeah.
And when the defense makes it difficult, we'll adjust. I know that probably should have been the game plan earlier in this season than it was.
For sure. Yeah, it makes you wonder what could have been if we utilized Brady Cook's legs a little bit more earlier on in the season. I'm not saying we would have gotten to 9 or 10 wins or anything, but a couple of close games that probably could have gone the other way.
Do you know who the leading receiver was in this game, Kyle?
For either team?
Yeah.
It's got to be Lovett, right?
Yeah, it was Dominic Lovett. 6 receptions for 130 yards. We'll talk about him more shortly.
Yeah, I mean, he had one pass that was like 50-plus yards in the air.
And he probably should have had another touchdown. Or I can't remember who it was. There may have been multiple.
He fell down.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of one where the Missouri wide receiver had the defense beat and the ball was just underthrown. That may have been to Luther Burden. Luther Burden had only 2 receptions, but one of them was a sideline throw that he just did what he does, made the defender miss, and was in the end zone.
Yeah, he's really, really physical with the ball in his hands. He's really tough to bring down.
And wrapping it up, offensively, Cody Schrader, 18 carries for 87 yards and a touchdown. Nathaniel Pete, 3 carries for 1 yard. It's going to be interesting to see what the running back room looks like next year.
Mm-hmm. All of the positions, really.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll save that for a moment. Defensively, 10 tackles for loss for Missouri's defense.
Yeah.
Huge interception was Dalen Carnell. And
D-line played great again.
Yes, they were. I thought Arkansas's offensive line looked legitimately bad, especially, and I think that's something that Arkansas fans are not going to put up with, considering that's like the only thing that Sam Pittman is supposed to be bringing other than being able to pick coordinators.
Yeah, I think that's one thing. A pretty common theme I saw was that from Arkansas fans, their criticism of the offensive line, and just when the coaches lose and they have these kind of go-to lines, I get the feeling Sam Pittman's kind of go-to is talking about how they were out physical, and that was one of the first things he turned to in the post game after the Missouri loss was just that they were more physical than us. And I'm like, well, figure it out then. You seem like you know what needs to happen here.
Right.
So.
The Arkansas fans on Twitter were like predicting what he was going to say basically and making fun of it preemptively.
It's not a fun place to be that we've been before.
Oh man, it's nice when they're there though. Harrison Mevis 3 for 4 on field goals. He did fine, and probably honestly Missouri should have won this game by more than 2 points. But
Yeah. They didn't. I don't think they scored in the fourth quarter.
No,
but there was a moment where I think Missouri was winning 29-24. Arkansas was driving maybe. I think it was at the beginning of the fourth quarter, and Arkansas got down within the 10-yard line. It was like a 4th and goal, and like 2 yards to go, and they kicked the field goal. And I was praying, please kick, do not go for this. You'll probably get it and score a touchdown and take the lead, and then we'll have to bring the offense out and make them try and score. I was praying they were going to kick, and they did, and I don't think either team scored again after that.
No, that was still fairly early in the fourth quarter. And, yeah, it was basically just nothing happened after that. Missouri missed a field goal, and Arkansas couldn't get anything going. I mean, credit Missouri's defense for holding them on their last two drives.
Yeah.
But I think I said something in the Discord at some point like, I'm totally fine with an anticlimactic ending here.
Yep.
I don't need some heroic thing to happen. Let's just nobody score, let the clock run out. And honestly, Missouri should have been able to run the clock out without giving Arkansas the ball with whatever 20 seconds left there was or something like that. Oh well, it ended just fine, and Missouri ends their season, their regular season, 6-6, 3-5 in SEC play, exactly the same record in both cases as Nebraska, or not Nebraska, Arkansas.
Freudian slip.
And
do you remember what we predicted them before the season?
I said, I'm pretty sure I said 6-6.
Yeah, I feel like we were both around 6-7 wins.
Yeah, we'll have to go back and listen. We'll have a proper wrap up to the whole season next week or maybe the week after. It depends on how busy we are with basketball. But we will properly dissect the entire season and talk about how we ended up 6-6. Although I'll tell you, spoiler alert, I'm happier with our 6-6 finish than I would be if I was an Arkansas fan with their 6-6 finish.
Did you mean to say Arkansas that time?
Yeah. What did I say?
Yeah, you said Arkansas.
Okay, that's what I was going for.
Okay, you meant to say that. Okay.
Yeah, Arkansas, like, having this peak in, like, week 2.
Yeah.
And then just falling
Slowly
apart.
declining.
Versus us in week 2 or whenever the Kansas State game was, thinking it's the end of the world, and then kind of...
Yeah, give me an off season of, like, hope and, like... thinking that we're on an upward trajectory. Give me the whole off season of that rather than the opposite.
Yeah, then questioning everything all the time.
Yeah.
But there's going to be plenty of that anyway.
There will be.
No matter what. There is still the bowl game, so we could lose that, and then that could dampen things a little bit. Although, it seems like we'll just transition right into transfer portal season with how many departures there already have been, and there was reports that the coaching staff basically said, if you're out, tell us now. We'll move on. You won't play the bowl game.
Yeah.
We'll play the bowl game with the players that want to be here.
Yeah, I think you almost have to look at the bowl game with an asterisk at this point.
Yes.
Like, it's like, okay, if we win, we win. If we lose, we lose. I don't know that it really changes my feelings on the team or the season at this point.
I think...
We could have a game against Kansas, though, so that
true.
I probably want to win that one a little bit more than other bowl games, probably. But at the same time, though, there's just going to be so many moving pieces.
And I think that's different than how it was 3-4 seasons ago.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Very much Barry Odom era. It was like we cannot get over the hump in these bowl games. And it's just like we have these strong finishes to the season and then just it falls off a cliff for the bowl game. And now, even if that happens, like I'm sure Coach Drink would like to get a bowl win under his belt.
Sure.
And start stacking those because that makes everything look better.
The last bowl game we won was Oklahoma State in 2013.
I believe it.
Almost a decade.
We beat Minnesota the next year.
Yep. 14.
Yeah.
That's probably the last one.
Yeah. Matty Mock truck stick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't want to think about losing to Texas.
Imagine coming off that 2014 bowl win and just thinking like, just knowing what's to come for the next like 8 years of Mizzou football, like nothing meaningful.
Yeah, and what you thought you were getting, like defense probably gonna peak, and that's exactly what happened. And like Matty Mott coming back for his junior season, Dorial Green Beckham coming back for his junior season, like true junior. He's gonna go off and then go to the NFL, and like
in kind of a desolate wasteland instead.
Multiple running backs ready to lead the way. It's not quite how it went down. Just
a side convo there.
We got to talk about this transfer portal
We
situation.
just keep putting it off.
So, I mean, it feels like the minute the game went final.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, Dominic Levitt's transferring, folks.
Yeah.
It's happening. We gotta get. This is us coming to grips with it and moving on.
The transfer portal is not officially open yet. It opens December 5th.
True. Yes.
December 5th, it opens. He's not in the portal yet. He will be. He's not officially transferring from Mizzou yet. He probably will be, but that doesn't mean he is for sure. He's going to go into the portal. He's going to look at his other options. He's going to see how much he's getting offered to go somewhere else. He's going to see what Missouri offers, and then he'll make his decision. That doesn't mean he's staying, but I think it's not impossible that he returns. I don't want to get any hopes up. I don't know anything, but I'm not saying it's a 100% chance that he's gone.
I agree with everything you said. However, me personally, I am mentally acting as though he is gone.
I understand.
Never going to play for Mizzou again.
That's fine.
I'm trying to move past it.
Okay.
So, but everything you said exactly correct.
Luther Burden.
Luther Burden back.
He's already announced we're good. He's got some chips.
Don't even worry about it.
He's on a chip bag.
Yes. And he's back for more chips and more
championships. That's kind of good.
Yeah. There was rumors. The rumors were flying. It just immediately after the game ended.
Yeah.
What?
I know.
And it was scary for a moment. We were reading things we don't want to read.
Yes.
And then
I was in an emotional place for a little while on when was that? Sunday afternoon?
Yeah. And I was just trying to I was trying to decide whether to just go seek as much information as possible and read everything, or just completely ignore it all
and just wait
and see what happens. But then I would get a little piece of information. I would get a little piece of a rumor, and I just broke down and I said, I got to go read everything that I can read.
Yeah.
And then shortly after I started reading everything, Luther Burden posted saying he's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
That made me feel so much better.
Yeah. That would have been utterly devastating to lose both of those guys, but we don't have to go there.
Nope.
Not even going to remotely go there.
And, I mean, I'm just saying, if I was Luther Burden, a little bit of rumor to get everybody worried, but then you come back, with the post.
Sure. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I'd probably do it.
We obviously lost Makai Wingo last year, which was at the time we thought utterly devastating, and still would have loved to have him. He was great at LSU this year, but the best position group in our team was defensive line, and we figured it out. You know, and it's really great to have great players, but I think it'll be fine. We will. I think we have some great talent at wide receiver, some young guys that are going to step up. And, if he doesn't return to Missouri, we will figure out a way to move on. Yeah, I mean, we've got
Makai Miller has been making big plays.
Yeah, I'm really excited about him.
Yes. In the Arkansas game, he stepped up.
He basically saved the season with a catch on third down to put the game away, essentially, or almost.
And he had a couple of those in a game previously.
Yeah.
Obviously, with Barrett Bannister moving on and Towski Dove moving on, we're going to need some guys to step up. Just what a sigh of relief just thinking about the fact that no matter what happens, Luther Burden is the number one guy next year.
Yeah.
And we can just fill in the spots after him. And that is a much easier task. Penciling him in as the number one and then figuring everything else out is infinitely easier than trying to figure out who the new number one is going to be.
Right. And you think about the step that Dominic Lovett took in one offseason, and even for a elite player, that's almost not even a step that you can expect from anybody.
Right.
But because he just was phenomenal this year. But Luther Burden was significantly more productive his freshman year than Lovett was. So if he can even take a fraction of a step like that, he's going to be incredible in the next year or two.
Just to run down through the departures that have been announced so far, help me out on the NFL guys, because so far I know Isaiah McGuire is declaring for the NFL draft. He's not using his COVID year. Same for Martez Manuel.
Yeah.
And those were both pretty expected.
Right.
No shockers there. And both now on the defensive line, both position groups look able to withstand these departures better than I best case scenario, like Dalen Carnell and company in the defensive backfield is ready to go.
Right. Yeah, we've talked about him a few times this season and how he's kind of nipping at the heels of Manuel anyway.
Right.
They play the same position.
And not to say that Manuel's been slacking either.
He's been a great player for really his whole career at Missouri. He started hot and has been good his whole career. But Carnell's ceiling is very, very high. He's a really good player. So that, like you said, that's really not a terrible loss for the defense. And Martez will probably be drafted, and Isaiah McGuire definitely will be probably a second day draft pick. But at this point, I think those are the only two guys that have declared for like a professional career moving on. And Chris Abrams-Drain is a guy to watch. I think he definitely will be drafted if he wants to go that route. And I think he could probably. I think he honestly anything would be it would be totally expected or not surprising if he wanted to transfer, stay, or go pro. Any of those three things could happen with him. I think Ennis Rakestraw is a guy that will get NFL looks, but I think he might benefit from one more year.
Yeah.
He's been pretty vocal on Twitter about how he wishes he would have stayed healthy like last year and put together a few more stats, because then he probably could have left for the NFL.
Yeah.
He's very candid.
Openly explaining like, oh man, if I hadn't got hurt, I'd be gone for the NFL.
Literally, yes. So I don't know what those guys are going to do. Wouldn't be shocked to see them leave or stay.
Okay, on Chris Abrams-Drain, real quick.
Yeah.
What do you have in your head right now as the most likely thing to happen with him?
Without knowing anything really on the inside, I think he'll stay.
I hope you're right. I, again, mentally am preparing myself for him going to the NFL draft.
That's perfectly fine.
And I
understand.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
You like to do that. Yeah. I mean, that's fine. Like, give yourself a little pleasant surprise.
Yeah. And I'm thinking realistically, how much more does he have to prove at this level?
He played a great season.
I think NFL teams, when they are looking at defensive backs, they're going to see that the impact he was making, even though he didn't have like a ton of interceptions or anything.
Yeah, he's a little undersized, and that'll be the biggest knock on his draft stock. But man, he can shut people down, and got to the point where teams were not throwing his direction, and that's exactly where you want to be as a cornerback.
Okay, jumping back to this list that I have so far of players that are transferring away from Mizzou. We talked about Lovett. We also have defensive backs. DJ Jackson, Davion Sistrunk, which we already knew about that, and LJ Hewitt, which we already knew about him.
Yeah.
So Jackson, the only new departure there.
Yeah, I would say Jackson was kind of a head scratcher. As a true freshman last year, he got a lot of play and looked really, really solid, but I do think he maybe just got passed up on the depth chart a little bit. They brought in some guys. They brought in Norwood, and just didn't play much this year.
The transfer from Miami also.
Yes, him as well. Rakestraw and Chris Abrams-Drain were healthy all year, and you just aren't going to play over those two guys. And that's really why he was able to play last year, was with injuries and stuff. So
still just a true sophomore.
He'll be good somewhere else, wherever he goes. I think he could be a Power 5 transfer potentially. Sistrunk was kind of a flyer and a guy who was really athletic but didn't have a lot of production, hadn't been playing football super long. He was kind of a dual sport guy in high school, so not super surprising that he never saw the field, and that's just, I think we expected that potentially when he came in.
And Hewitt was a JUCO transfer.
Yeah, I don't even think he made it the full season.
Yeah. Now, still on the defensive side, Jelani Williams, graduate transfer, which, I mean, honestly, go where you can play more.
Yeah, I think there's a pretty good chance Carlisle and Charleston both are back next year, and plus anybody they want to add in the transfer portal. I just don't think there's really a great path of playing time for Williams. And, you know, he's been at Mizzou for 3 or 4 years now, so he's been a solid kind of backup guy when they've needed him at times, and he stepped up. But, it would be good to see him go start somewhere else.
Linebackers Zachary Lovett and Devin Nicholson.
Yeah, two totally opposite guys. Nicholson, really productive career, at Missouri, but kind of playing because there was nobody else, and it really showed some weaknesses at times, and kind of got passed up this year for the betterment of the team. And then Lovett was a guy that just never really cracked the rotation. So in my eyes, obviously you don't like to see guys leave, I guess, but really in this situation, it's kind of best case scenario for probably both parties that those guys move on and find something else. And
yeah, it does worry me a little bit, and probably just gonna have to get used to this, but just needing to reload, needing to find answers for 2 seasons from now, specifically at the linebacker position, just makes me uneasy.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's similar to what we've been doing with quarterback on offense. Just like always never being able to be like, oh, I'm confident in who the quarterback's going to be 2 years from now,
Right.
1 year from now.
Yeah.
And so
that part of that is just the era of college football that we're
Yeah.
in. It's like you really can't count on anybody to stick around for more than
No.
a year. And it's interesting. It's made for it's a little bit of a roller coaster for fans and for coaches, really. But that's kind of the world that we've taken on by giving the players more power, which, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But we are in a strange era of college football, I think.
And with Lovett leaving, like, no Mizzou fan is going to be surprised when anybody leaves ever.
Yeah.
Like, the only thing that would be more surprising is if Brady Cook transferred.
That would be shocking,
Yeah.
actually. Unless they just said today Sam Horn's the starter from now on or
Right.
something like
Right.
that. Yeah, that it is a little bit refreshing to have guys on your team like Brady Cook in this era of college football because he's just flat out like loves Mizzou
Yeah.
and will say that in interviews and stuff like that. So it's like, man, I want to love this guy and like I want him to be good here, but it's not.
Yeah,
always
that's why I'm
realistic.
like, pull out all the stops. Like, run him as much as you need to. Like, it is whatever he can do to win us games, I'm here for. So, yeah.
I mean, I almost think that has value in the quarterback competition. Like, maybe I'm reading too much into that. It's like intangibles for sure, but it just seems like his relationship with the coaching staff is really strong, and he's a mature guy who is kind of a team first kind of player. Not saying that Sam Horn isn't or
Right.
Tyler
Anybody.
Macon isn't or
Right.
whatever, but clearly he's very outspokenly like pro Mizzou.
Yeah.
He's a very mature, well-spoken, smart guy and wants to win more than anything out there. And so I think that is a factor.
Tell me what you think about this. A couple times now, just watching sideline interactions and stuff, I almost feel like Coach Drinkwitz is almost too hard on Brady Cook. Like, I feel like he doesn't get as much love in press conferences and stuff from Coach Drink, and like, it almost seems like there's always something that Drink's not happy about with. And yeah, whatever.
Like
Like,
classic coach stuff.
yeah, maybe. And what am I saying? Like, the fan base, including myself, has been frustrated at the quarterback play all season.
Yeah, he did
But-
kind of stick up for him though towards the end of the year.
True.
And said like he's taken a lot of crap, which
Yeah.
he has. But I agree. Yeah, it's
I feel like
he
there's
can never
some. Yeah.
be satisfied.
Yeah. Which maybe that's just.
Well, I think that's
that maybe
classic.
you need a little bit of that from the quarterback with the head coach. You kind of.
I think that's classic coach stuff, but I also think that remember we've talked about Drink, how he thinks of all the angles and
True.
the fan perception of the quarterback position and how nothing is solid ground right there, or right now. And so, I don't know that he wants to like overpraise any of the quarterbacks.
Yeah, maybe so. Okay, finishing up this list here. Defensive end, Travion Ford. Super disappointing.
That's
Just-
a weird one.
Yeah, like 4-star recruit. Maybe physically he's kind of, is he a interior or is defensive lineman, or is he on the end? Is he stand-up pass rusher? Is he too big for that? I don't know.
I mean, he just literally never saw the field at his
Yeah.
entire time at Missouri.
That's a weird one. So good luck to him. Hopefully he can find a spot where he can be productive. It obviously wasn't going to happen at Mizzou. Now, last thing is quarterback Tyler Macon. This is not surprising to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
He was passed up on the depth chart by guys that are younger than him and was relegated to the 4th down
Fake snapper.
snap, throw the ball on the ground play.
Right. And clearly had some things come out on Twitter towards the end of the season with some relatives that were kind of, not happy with the situation, that happens.
Yeah.
That happens when your kid's not getting playing time and all that. So whatever.
Yeah.
Clearly the family was not really happy with how things were going. This was the least surprising thing in the world. And I think that he still has 3 years of eligibility. He's going to go find a place to play. He's a really strong arm, very very mobile. He'll be a productive quarterback somewhere.
Yeah, it is kind of, for a fan, it's much, you like to be in a position where a player leaving the team, you can still root for them to, succeed elsewhere. And honestly, for most of these guys, that is the case. Almost all of them. There's not a whole lot, like you said, with the portal not actually technically being open yet. There's only speculation about who Missouri's pursuing in the portal.
Yeah.
Although they do already have a visit lined up with transfer wide receiver Andrew Armstrong. I can't remember where he transferred from.
Like really low level. I think like D2 potentially.
Yeah. So that's going to be the transfer portal. I don't know. I don't know what every fan thinks of it, but I think it adds excitement to the offseason. And like I said last week, there is just going to be this addition and subtraction. And at the end of the offseason, you look at what do we lose, what do we gain, who are we excited to see at this level, who's going to crack the starting rotation. It just, I think, makes all of that a little bit more exciting.
Yeah, it's always fun to be watching Twitter and all that stuff just for news that's coming out. And ultimately, you're going to lose guys every year. You're going to lose guys to probably like wanting to level up and level down. And hopefully, just it's a net positive at the end whenever it's all said and done. And honestly, I really think Missouri kind of knocked it out of the park last year with the transfer portal. Had some really, really high contributors on the defense especially come in. And knowing we could basically do that almost every season, kind of, that's encouraging. What is discouraging is kind of like high school recruiting in general and just needing to be patient on young players because, man, football is such a long-term development type sport where guys just do not come in and contribute quickly very often unless you're elite or there's just nobody else in your position group. And
it doesn't matter. Like, you can't count on any specific circumstance to equal a long-term success at Mizzou. Like, we've seen it every which way. We've seen the player who doesn't play at all transfer to get playing time. We've seen the true freshman that starts like most of their games leave.
Yeah,
so
it's like you don't want to be on the extremes either way.
It seems like it, yeah.
And just Missouri really needs older, experienced players, I think, to have elite seasons. And so I think they're just going to have to get old through the portal, unfortunately, unless they just have, some of those, a special group come in, a special class where they all want to stick together and that kind of stuff. I don't know. But we're in a weird spot in college football. I don't think very many things could ever deter me from, not wanting to be a fan or a fan of Missouri. None of that. I think it's just different. You won't watch the same players for 4 or 5 years like maybe you did in the past.
Right.
But you will have new players to root for every year and that kind of stuff. And I think there will need to be some kind of changes made to NIL, whether that, you've brought up contracts in the past, which honestly I think that's a great idea. I don't know how it would look exactly, but
contracts is an interesting thing.
It's pretty much full blown, like removing the amateurism from college sports. But
and
we're pretty much there.
Right. So like contracts seems like something that would help the situation that we're in right now.
Right.
Whether, if you could walk back everything and start fresh as far as getting players some money, maybe you don't go that route. But that seems like a logical next step to where we are now that I think would actually benefit both sides.
For sure. I mean, that just kind of locks the player in, and not in a bad way, but just like we have this commitment for this long, and the coaches can relax, the players can relax, and the fans can relax. Like, just know that we've got this player for this long. And
you would get interesting situations though, where like whoever, Texas A&M wants to come buy out the player's contract.
Yes.
And,
Okay, well, what about this idea? And I think it was Maggie Johnson that came up with that. I heard this from, where you wouldn't be able to have NIL opportunities in your first season. What do you think about that?
I don't think that's a good idea.
Okay. Tell me why.
It just feels like, in my opinion, just do contracts at that point.
Okay.
Like, that seems like a arbitrary solution that feels like it would work. It feels like it would solve a very specific problem.
To like use it as a recruiting tool.
Yeah.
But then we can just say, well, in year 2, we'll give you this.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And it doesn't seem like it seems like for college football, we need to build a system that actually works and not just every year go, okay, this externality that we didn't plan for, how do we deal with that?
Mm-hmm.
And then we put a Band-Aid on that, and then next year it's a different thing that we got to figure out. Okay, now what Band-Aid do we put on this?
Yeah.
So it feels to me like we need systems that actually benefit the players, that are legal things that people can count on understanding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just, I feel like we are getting there. I think the players really do. I think it's better for the players that they're being compensated and all this, and have a little bit more leverage in the situation for the big business that college football is. And I think we're maybe in a weird spot, maybe in the in-between phase right now, but hopefully in the long run, I think this is, once we get some of the details and all the loopholes ironed out a little bit and stuff, I think this will hopefully be a good thing for everybody.
Yeah, my fear is that because of the dynamics of all of it, you're talking about businesses who understand how business works, and you've got universities that are thinking big picture, and they've dealt with a lot of this type of stuff, and then you've got high school kids.
Yep.
And so it seems like it's always going to be what's the least we can give the players to keep this thing rolling,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll just have to re-examine that every time there's a new pressure point, instead of getting ahead of it and figuring it out long term. So I don't know. I get a little nervous thinking about the prospects for college athletics in the near term, 5-10 years from now, what it'll look like. And I don't know. It's weird to think about there just being like this minor league football league,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the teams is the Missouri Tigers. And they're still part of the university system.
It's definitely something charming about the players suiting up for the university you love and maybe the university you went to.
Right.
And kind of holding on to those traditions of the school. And, it does feel weird to separate it from the school. And I think that would maybe drive some fans away and make feel less special.
Yeah.
And I'm with you there. So
one thing I wanted to mention with Lovett leaving, and it sticks out in my mind to compare his situation with that of Mekhi Miller. And part of it is his dad being on Twitter and being able to see behind the scenes a little bit with him. And he seems like a very level-headed person who, as of right now, is bought into Drinkwitz and the staff and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this offseason into next year, we might start being able to identify Drinkwitz guys. And that, I'm not talking about guys he recruited. I'm talking about guys who, every coach has like these players that are their guys, and they feed off of each other, and the players stick up for the coach, and like
a Barrett Bannister.
Yeah, I feel like Barry Odom had his guys that had his back no matter what. And no matter how bad things got in Columbia, those were his guys. They were going to stick up for their coach, and they weren't going to bail on him. They might even go to Arkansas with him.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's just now to the point where we're going to start to see those guys for Drinkwitz. And there's going to be some that they're along for the ride, but they're not really tied to what's going on in Columbia. And there's going to be a handful each year that we start to see, these guys are all in on this coaching staff, this system. It's weird how long it takes to start to get that in the program.
Yeah, I don't know really where I'm going with this, but it does seem like a great thing when players have kind of a level-headed source to kind of guide them through the monstrosity almost that is college athletics. Like, just Mekhi Miller's very level-headed, like almost. I think he's probably been through the process himself, but he seems to have a very good understanding of. My son's a true freshman. He's probably not going to play that much, but here's a couple of glimpses, like something to hold on to get excited for the future. It does seem like a lot of times some of the players maybe don't have the best advice that they're getting behind the scenes, and that will happen every single year when guys think the grass is going to be greener somewhere else, no matter where they are, Missouri or somewhere else. They've got maybe somebody in their ear that's not giving them totally great advice.
That's obviously true, and the coach can't be that for them because the coach has his own interests, and so as much as it would be nice for the coach to be that guy, it just doesn't really work unless you're bought into his vision, and then it can work.
Yeah, the players really need a trusted source to go through the process with.
Yeah, and it is a shame out of all the stuff that's happened with college athletics, it is a shame that basically you can't rely on that being found within the university. We talked through a lot of stuff there. What else? Anything else going on? Luther Burton's coming back. 12-team playoff next year.
Oh, man, that's going to be awesome.
It's locked in.
I love it. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, without going super hard in the paint on this, because I know we could unravel and talk about it for half an hour. Is there a chance Brady Cook plays quarterback for Missouri their first game next season?
Absolutely, there's a chance.
Okay. Give me like a rough percentage that he plays the first snap of the first game.
First snap of the first game next year, Brady Cook has 29% chance of taking that snap.
I was going to say 35.
Yeah. I just wanted to say 29 because of the
Arkansas
score.
Aren't you clever?
No, really, right in there. So, 20.
Yeah.
I feel,
It's going to be another interesting offseason.
That may be low, honestly.
I don't think, at least, I don't think we're going to be like going crazy for transfer quarterbacks. I think that would be a surprise to me. But
I bet we kick the tires on some.
If we are, then I think that'll be a telling sign.
Is it?
I don't know. I don't even know.
Reach out to him every year.
I guess.
Seems to be. I don't.
Reach out and make.
You're not even going to get any of them anyway. You
get
just
Jack Abraham.
Reach out to 5 of them, and you'll get the 6th one, just every year. All right, is that it? Anything else?
Do we got to pick them? Pick something?
No, pick them. We can recap.
Oh yeah, let us know.
We'll do a little recap.
The only thing this week is the SEC championship game.
Yeah. Yep.
So the plan is we'll do another pick 'em for the bowl games.
Okay. Lots of bowl eligible SEC teams.
Yeah.
I don't know we're talking about like Kansas and the Liberty Bowl. I don't know some people are able to be like, this bowl will want this and this matchup.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, if you're a lower level bowl and you have an SEC team, I feel like you would want the Mizzou Kansas game.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, I guess Texas A&M is going to bring a huge crowd wherever they go.
Yeah, but I think there's just I don't know that Missouri wants that bowl. I think
they want to go to Vegas.
I think the Liberty Bowl's maybe the same day as a basketball game. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's some things at play where I don't think Missouri wants the Liberty Bowl, and so maybe there's some pushback from Missouri's side. I don't know. There's a ton going on with all the bowl stuff. There's probably like 3 or 4 different bowls that I wouldn't be surprised to see Missouri in. I've seen 10 to 20 different projections from different outlets. Like it's completely up in the air, but I think Missouri probably ends up in Birmingham potentially against I don't even know, AAC team or whatever, like against a lower level team, or I think
we'll have to play like top 10 like Tulane or something.
That would be terrible. Yeah.
Tulane would make the 12-team playoff, but since that doesn't exist, we play them in a bowl game and they destroy us.
Yeah. Well, I think our opponent probably determines how we use our personnel a little bit too. I mean, if we're playing Kansas in the Liberty Bowl, which is not out of the picture, I think we're trying to win the game with Brady Cook. If we're playing in Birmingham against some random, I don't know, like Memphis or something like that, then I think Sam Horn might be playing. I don't know. A lot of time to think about it.
Yeah. All right. How did we pick last week?
Anyway, last week, Cameron got 5 points. Kyle got 5 points. I got 6, and the guest pickers got 7.
Classic.
7?
Yeah.
Goodness.
So, season total is Cameron has 63. Guest pickers have 72. Kyle has 74, and I have 80.
I think this is a done deal.
They almost caught you.
Mm-hmm.
I know. Doesn't matter though.
No.
Second place is the first.
The first out of the winning.
Yes, first loser.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what the phrase is.
That's, yeah.
But you got it right.
Okay.
You nailed it.
Is that it?
That's it.
Who you got? LSU, Georgia.
Georgia. Can LSU even challenge them? I don't want to watch LSU with Wingo and Daniels, who should have. Well, yeah.
What's his face? Kelly.
Oh, Brian Kelly.
Brian Kelly.
Ugh.
Yeah, LSU just.
Why do people?
God.
Who wants to go play for him? Who wants to go play for these people?
I don't know.
Who wants to go play for him? Jimbo Fisher.
Who wants to play for? Clearly, no one wants to play for Jimbo.
That's true.
They're getting the bag and then they're going out somewhere else.
Yes. I love that, honestly.
Oh my gosh, just exploiting the system.
Go take their money and then come to Mizzou.
Come to Mizzou, all of them.
The good ones. That's the new, like, that's the meta, is like recruit players to go get paid elsewhere and knowing that they're actually just going to come to your school.
Like, hey, I just go down the road to Jimbo.
Yeah.
Act like you want to play for him, and then like throw every game and get paid, and then we'll talk.
That's like actual like mob stuff, like how the mafia would run college football. Like we're on that borderline.
We're getting there.
Yeah. All right, are we done here?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Special thank you to our Patreon supporters at the $10 level and above: Britt Treese, Brian Smith, Ryan DeMore, Tristan, Ben Smith, Parker Daddy JD, Luis Hernandez, Tim Keynes, Tyler Harsel, Brandon Groffalo, Brandon Hanks. Thank you.
Thank you, fellas. You can find this podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. We're on Twitter at Mizzou Sports Pod. You can email us at MissouriSportsPod@gmail.com.
You can find our t-shirts and stickers on our online shop, MissouriSportsPod.BigCartel.com.
If you're still listening at this point, leave us a like, please.
Please.
Thank you everyone for listening. We will see you next week.